Blog Talk Radio.
Introduction to this compilation. Through the Billy Meyer extraterrestrial contact case, Earth humanity has been provided with renewed spiritual teachings which clearly distinguish themselves from, and shine a bright light on, the spirit and enslaving teachings of our earthly cults and religions. Of all the extensive, remarkable information and clearly intelligent advice which has been provided through Billy Edward Albert Meyer, that is, the photographic and other evidence of extraterrestrial craft, scientific information, accurate predictions, history, explanations about other worlds and about extraterrestrial beings, and so forth, the spiritual teachings are stressed as being by far the most important. Before I learned any of the German language, I really wanted to understand more about what was meant by the phrase, laws and directives of creation. I thought I sort of knew, but I was guessing. In an attempt to help convey some more to other people in the English-speaking world about what is meant by this phrase, I have drawn from Meyer's book Sarihat Other Sataanam. I tried to put the relevant points in my own words, but when it comes down to it, the original words always express it better. No surprises there. On the other hand, there are times when it is more practical to use my own words. In the end, I do whatever seems best to make it as clear and accurate as I can. Please keep in mind that we, Vivian and Dyson, are still just learning about this enormous body of teaching ourselves, and, as with all our other Meyer-related work, this is just our personal effort and not an official explanation from Meyer's group FIG. Our usual disclaimer applies. The following contains unauthorized preliminary translations by Vivian Legg and Dyson Devine of www.gaiawise.net of www.fig.org material. It may contain errors. It is very important that you refer back to the web pages and publications of Meyer's group, FIG, in Switzerland, www.fig.org, to learn all you can there. Above all, if you have a sincere interest in this material, we stress the importance of striving to learn the German language and read and test the source material for yourself. Please don't take my word for it. Vivian Legg, you can read those articles/translations of ours which are most closely related to this one at the following links. The Laws and Directives of Creation. Our translation of main points. For the earth, human creational laws and directives govern eternally, just as they govern the whole universe, on all worlds and all beings. As a result of the power of the human spirit, which lives in him, it is possible for him to live quite consciously according to these laws and directives, and to thereby perfect himself. Therefore, the more he arranges himself under, and adapts to, the ironclad order of these spiritual laws and directives, the more knowledge, truth, and wisdom consciously grow in him, and the more the monstrous, that is, enormous, powers of consciousness grow in him, which he may, through the created knowledge and ability, employ as capabilities. Therewith he really does open himself for all creational powers that stream into him out of the infinite vastness of the universe as a living current of love. If the earth human treads this way, then he not only leads a life corresponding to the creational order and its laws and directives, but he goes the true way of the spiritual and consciousness evolution, and therewith the way of the perfecting. The law of love is the most fundamental of all creational laws, and this law also embodies the ground law for you earth humans, who therefore does not practice universal love to all offends against a directive of the order and against a law of the determination. How do we begin to recognize the laws and directives of creation for ourselves? Tells us that the prophets have often taken their students into free nature to teach them, because the works of creation themselves express the love of creation. 38. and the human is another when the lovely evening silence lays its peace in his psyche and in his consciousness. What are some of the laws and directives? As an individual being, the human has various tasks that he is obliged to fulfill. He is firstly obliged to maintain his life for the duration of the time given him for development, and secondly, to further develop himself spiritually and consciously as much as possible, and to acknowledge the evolution of spirit as an important truth. He has the obligation as a part of the community to maintain his kind and instruct and educate his descendants in the sense of the spiritual teachings. Further, he is obliged to arrange himself under and adapt himself to a natural community order which guarantees a natural evolution in any relationship, just as is observably demonstrated in nature. Sada and the Plejaran repeatedly advise us in particular about our out-of-control overpopulation problem and, as of 1975, recommended a strict, humane plan of worldwide birth control, which we arrogantly and self-destructively ignored, and continue to ignore. Countries like Australia even promote the growth of our population for economic reasons, even as our water and other resources are increasingly reduced and contaminated. Sada says that one of the most important tasks of the realm of material life of the earthly humanity is to pay attention to the fact that the population must be very severely restricted and the number of human beings must not exceed 500 million. According to the Plejaran, we had 7.5 billion at the end of 2004, which is 1 billion more than was acknowledged at the same time by the US American Census Bureau. According to the creational laws and directives, the correct formula for maintaining the human species is not one of simply increasing, as is wrongly proclaimed by earthly religions, but is based in the adherence to the natural laws so that there is order, meaning that population growth is overseen and supervised. Through the irrationality and false religious teaching of the earth human, the mass of humanity is driven into boundlessness, whereby problems, which are containable and can be restricted for a small humanity, spread and become uncontrollable to an unspeakable extent. With the breaking and abuse of the law of maintenance of the species, humanity has been driven to a massive overpopulation in only a few hundred years, and with that all problems, need and degeneration climb, and because of this millions are forced to die a degenerate death. Please refer to the Fig Overpopulation pamphlets for more on this. To follow creational laws and directives also means the correct raising of children, in which, by adulthood, they are entirely equipped for self-reliance and independence from their parents. Other laws concern respect for all life forms, not killing and degeneration, which includes not committing suicide, learning from mistakes rather than condemning them, taking responsibility for one's own thoughts, words and deeds, not judging falsely but instead making judgments according to logic, respecting one's spiritual and physical needs, the requirement for leadership in each family, community and population, etc., the obligation of a leader to guide, teach and protect the people, the implementation of correctional measures for wrong behavior instead of torture or the death penalty, which entirely go against the creational laws and directives, and so on. The ironclad laws and directives cannot be changed or injured. The differences among the most varied kinds of life lie only in their form, never, however, in differing laws and directives, because these are universally uniform. However, as a form of life capable of independent thought, the earth human may consciously, as well as unconsciously, steer and influence his evolution, whereby he is also capable of abusing and offending against the existing laws and directives of creation, whereby, however, he would become incapable of life and sink into the abyss. Even if, in his lack of reason, the earth human is still so bestial and barbaric and ingenious in the most malicious intrigues, he will still never be able to alter or destroy the laws and directives of creation. Even were his intrigues very great and forceful and their application in effect, they may never injure the creational laws and directives. The adverse effects of the intrigues he employs, and of the hate, always fall back on the originator himself and very often bring him fatal damage. So if the human thinks and behaves according to the laws of intrigue and hate which he himself produces, he has to bear the results which come from that himself, because, due to all the negative degeneration of all possible outcomes, he can only organize for himself evil, suffering, need, misery and damage. Arihatatharsata also explains that the spirit also lives according to the same laws and directives of the creational order, and cannot simply abuse these, and, in the same way, the creation itself cannot abuse its own laws and directives. That which is timeless is eternal, and in timeless eternity rests the truth and wisdom of creative strength and omnipotence. The harder a human being strives to approach this truth, the easier it will be for him to live the laws and commandments in the creative order. The order of all infinite continuity will shine radiantly into man's life, provided he recognizes and observes the truth of creation, its laws, and commandments. Tranquility, peace and love become his life's companions through space and time, and are evidence of the perfection of creational harmony. You can read more sections from the book Arihatatharsata in English in the Fig German/English booklet, Life in the Spiritual and Physical. How it all began. Billy Edward Albert Meyer's spiritual experiences can be traced all the way back to a time when he was 4 years old. Billy was living in a town called Niederflachs/Berlach, Switzerland. Berlach is a municipality in Switzerland in the canton of Zurich, located in the district of the same name, and belongs to the Glatt Valley, German, Glattel. As a young boy at about 3 a.m. one morning, on the mild night in May, in the year 1931, he went outside and sat down on a bench and looked up at a beautiful starry night. Then he heard a voice in his head that said, "My life is made out of the love of creation." Also a short time later, words suddenly formed on Billy's lips, which said, "Since ancient times, you have lived among the stars," and suddenly Billy knew who he was, and what his mission was on this earth. And, suddenly, impulses came from somewhere, which I later recognized as impulses from the storage banks, and many good memories penetrated me and showed me the way I had to go in my life. Thus I also suddenly knew what space and time signify concerning the evolution of human beings in all things. For more information how it all began. The second part of that complete passage reads, "I recognized that the light, which the stars emitted, was a light in the visible spectrum. However, the light of true love remained invisible, creational and for all great time, too. And, indeed, the beaming stars were there, which stirred in me an unfamiliar longing for the vast distance and faraway worlds. Then, words suddenly formed on my lips again, which said, 'Since ancient times, you have lived among the stars,' and suddenly I knew who I was, how I am and what my mission is on this earth." Billy knew at a very young age that everything which exists in the whole universe is a manifestation of the might and the infinite and true love of that mighty universal consciousness, which is simply called creation. Through this, I also learned to separate the wheat from the chaff and to look for the truth where it is basically to be found, namely, in one's own inner and innermost, as well as in one's own intellect, in one's own reason, one's own thoughts, contemplations and feelings. From this, developed the recognition and application of self-responsibility, and the recognition and fulfillment of responsibility in regard to fellow human beings, the worlds of plants and animals, and in regard to life and the creational laws and recommendations. From this, developed the recognition and application of self-responsibility, and the recognition and fulfillment of responsibility in regard to fellow human beings, the worlds of plants and animals, and in regard to life and the creational laws and recommendations. Billy looked up to the modesty of Pastor Rudolf Zimmermann. Billy learned to draw his own conclusions and make his own decisions. He also learned that he had to find the truth in his own thoughts and feelings. Contacts with Thoth. Billy's first teacher was an extraterrestrial man named Thoth. The first contact with Thoth occurred on Saturday, February 3, 1945, 12:10 p.m. Billy got a telepathic message to go out into the forest near his home in Bulac, Switzerland. Out of the sky came a silvery pear-shaped craft that sat down in a field nearby. Thoth, an extraterrestrial man of nearly 1,000 years. Thoth walked out of the craft and came over to young Billy. He took Billy by the hand and led him back to the ship. Thoth told him that his life would be difficult and that people would be blinded by hate and try to kill him. He was also told that his wife would turn against him as well. Billy was very wise for his age, and even older Earth humans would ask him for advice. Billy's words contain a vibration which has an inner power, which expresses his modesty and love for human beings. Billy has an inspirational power, which causes people to contemplate his words in a meditative power. Billy's real name is Edward, which means the guardian of the treasure. However, he is no worldwide as Billy or Bean. Billy has established himself in the background because the human beings of Earth create idols for themselves. He was told by Thoth not to go into the public too much and to remain in the background performing his mission in written form. The spiritual teaching that Billy brings is intended to transform the human beings in the world. The intention of the spiritual teaching is to awaken the human race out of their sleep. The teaching of the creational truth will become a worldwide movement that will bring peace, love and freedom to the human beings of this world. Billy was told by Thoth that he would lose his left arm in an accident in the future. He was told that there would be attempts on his life, and that even his wife would turn against him and call him a hoaxer. Thoth taught Billy something called spiritual telepathy, which enabled young Edward to receive information from a spiritual plane called Arihat-Atharsata. Billy was told that the current time is becoming epoch of great destruction and annihilation, which will start with criminal conduct of the Americans, who will drop atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Billy has come to clarify to all human beings the teaching of the truth, which will lead to the raising of the entire humanity on Earth. More information about Thoth Pleiadians leave the Earth. Pleiadians left the Earth in 1995, and it is at that time that they reveal their true identity as the Pleiadians, and still they fly. Page 279. These Pleiadians live 80 light years beyond our Pleiades in a different space-time configuration. Between 1975 and 1986 there were 3 extraterrestrial bases on the Earth. The locations of these bases included Asia, North America and Switzerland. The base in Switzerland had been on the Earth for more than 300 years. At that time there were 2,862 extraterrestrial humans on the Earth from 12 different races. During this 11-year period, 1975 to 1988, the extraterrestrials on Earth came from the Lyran, Vegan, Pleiadian systems and some from neighboring stars. There are 7.5 million human civilizations in the Milky Way galaxy. And still they fly. Page 234. There were 79 pure human races created by creation. However, now there are incredible numbers of different human races. The exact number of races would be expressed by a number with 63 zeros. The lifespans of human beings on other worlds can extend to thousands of years and even much longer. The diversity of human beings in terms of their size is also incredible. There are people that are only 16 inches tall, and on other worlds there are people that reach 40 feet tall. The Pleiadians would not reveal the reason for leaving the Earth. However, it had something to do with an event that would take place in our near future. Creation. This section describes the term creation and calls on the following sources: the Amor Book of Books, Love Teaching Letter No. 27. Contact Report 10. Contact Report 11. Billy answers question about the creation. Contact Report 18. The Talmud of Manual teaching about creation. Creation, as universal self-awareness, is the source of life of all creations within its domain, which is to say, within its universe. This universe, furthermore, is one of 10 to the 49th power other individual universes, which exist in infinite number, infinite space, and infinite time, as part of the highest form of creation, the absolute absolutum. Love Teaching Letter No. 27. Another great saying that comes from Love Teaching Letter No. 27, page 296. The love of creation is everywhere, because without it nothing at all would be able to exist. The individual should therefore be aware that he exists only through the love of creation, and that he carries this love also within himself. For more information read Love Teaching Letter No. 27, page 296. For more information read Fig post about Love Teaching Letter No. 27. Each smallest plant, each ever so tiny animal was created in love by creation, each creation existing according to the same law of love. All life is in the absolute perfection that which it should be through the love of creation, and except for humans, every life form lives exactly by this creation's plan. Only humans have turned away from love and must now learn again what true love is. The infinite love of creation connects all life, because in all life this love lies hidden. The universe that we live in is the material manifestation of the wisdom of creation. Wisdom is a kind of knowledge that produces energy. When we produce wisdom and its associated energy, we help the whole creation to evolve. The purpose of human life is to acquire wisdom. Love and wisdom belong together, because creation and its laws are love and wisdom at the same time. Contact Report 10, line 62. Where there is wisdom and knowledge, there is love and cognition, and where there is cognition and love, there is creation. Growth within love and wisdom teach the human to recognize creation. The earth human speaks of a love that he does not know. Reverence, human of the earth, is the fundamental element of all existence, so it is therefore also the fundamental element of love itself, which is built on this all-embracing reverence. And since this is so in truth, it is also an impossible thing that love, once awakened and built up in truthfulness, can ever weaken again and become cold, or could transform into hate or be annihilated. Billy Meyer, in his book, Law of Love. http://www.futuryoffmankind.co.uk/Billy_Meyer/short_bibliography. Contact Report 10. Contact Report 10, line 241. And within each human the infinite is its seat. However, very few are able to recognize this. Those who are rich in spirit become an instrument, through which creation expresses the spiritual realm. Contact Report 10, line 244. Each human has within him a human spirit which is a tiny, holographic copy of creation. The creation is a neutral positive entity that is neither good nor evil. The creation builds universes as a part of its own evolution. When we die, the human spirit goes into the etheric energy band that exists around our planet. Our spirit spends time in this fine matter existence where the experiences of the previous lives are put together like pieces of a mosaic. At the appropriate time, the creation places our human spirit back into the body of child about 21 days after the sperm fertilizes the egg. A consciousness block comes down, which screens out most of our past life memories. Therefore, the great sages of all time say, the creative spirit is nearer to the human than his own breath. Contact Report 10, line 141. The human may not escape from this highest consciousness, for sooner or later, he surrenders to this creative reality, because it is the life of his life, the spirit of his spirit, the consciousness of his consciousness, the light of his light, the central thought force of all life, the existence that projects all human thinking by far, against which all power of the human material intellectual thinking sinks into absolute insignificance. Contact Report 11. Contact Report 11, line 132. Life is the teaching of the Spirit for the Spirit. Contact Report 11, line 83. The material intellect accepts the testimony of the material senses and their resulting conclusions, but rejects the deepest subjective intuitions. Contact Report 11, line 77. In a non-creational thinking human being, the material intellect, with all its given limitations, takes the highest place and thereby has as a consequence a tremendously slow development of the spirit and the consciousness. Therefore, in order to avoid the downfall of humanity in the new millennium, in the third millennium, it is necessary to find the way back to creational truth and the creational laws and recommendations, to follow them and therefore to make everything new with regard to learning and knowledge of the effective plan of creation. However, this can only happen if the human beings of Earth once again find and follow the roots of creational truth, and therefore the creational laws and recommendations. Creation is identical to universal consciousness, and exists in a double helix, egg-shaped configuration. Creation is spirit in its purest form, and immeasurable in its wisdom, knowledge, love and harmony and truth. As a whole, all of the creation universal consciousness is completely balanced. As a result, neither good nor evil exists in it, but only neutral balance. More info. The idea of creation is different than the idea of God delusion. For a more comprehensive look at creation, take a look at this page: http://www.futureofmankind.co.uk/Billy_Meyer/creation. Our universe is shaped like an egg. If you were to cut it half and look inside, you would see a cross-section that would have concentric circles that would look very much like the rings in the tree trunk. The center contains the highest form of energy. The second, third and fourth layers serve different purposes and have a diminishing force of energy. The fifth layer is called the material belt and has all of the planets, stars and galaxies. The fifth band is the only band that contains material life forms. All of the other bands are different forms of spiritual energy that play a part in the development of the material band. The sixth band is used for space flight because time is different there and it allows the vast distances of space to be covered in very small amounts of time. The seventh band is called the push belt and exists to keep energies of other universes out of ours. Billy answers question about the universal material belt. Reader question: what is the universal material belt? Answer: the universal material belt is that part or belt, respectively, of the universe where matter exists, that is to say, planets, suns, galaxies, meteors, comets, gases, the entire dark matter and other things. All of these things exist only within this material belt, whereas no material whatsoever can be found in the internal and external belts, of which there exist 7 in all. In the so-called transformation belt, those forms develop from which matter develops that later exists in the material belt, hence in our visible Dern universe. This is the only portion of the universe we human beings are capable of seeing and exploring. We cannot see anything beyond it, for only total emptiness and blackness reign there. Absolute.